As you've learned, although not every site needs a full-blown expensive content strategy, all sites do need at least some content, and more is generally better than less, which raises the question, where is this content coming from? You have a number of options. The first thing to do is grab the low-hanging fruit. In most cases, there's already content available to you fairly obviously. For example, if you have an e-commerce site, what product information is available? Gather together everything you possibly can. Ask the manufacturers and wholesalers for all the information they have. If you are or work for the manufacturer, then talk with the design team about what's available, and so on. There is usually content available if you look for it. Now, as I explained earlier, one keyword strategy is to develop a list of keywords for which you want to rank well, then create an optimized page for each one, working your way down the list. For such a strategy, you may find yourself in a situation in which you need to stretch a little more and move past the low-hanging fruit. Essentially, you have three options. You can create the content yourself, pay someone to create it, or look for other forms of existing content. Creating content yourself, and perhaps that means finding someone within your team to create it, can often be difficult because it needs to be well-written content, and not everyone is capable of producing that. If you're lucky enough to have access to writers, either in the marketing department or perhaps technical writing department, that's great. But in the case of small or one-person businesses, you really need to decide if you're capable of producing decent content. Unfortunately, I've seen a number of situations in which my clients have attempted to produce content themselves and not done such a great job of it. Of course, creating content is also time-consuming, which is often a problem for small business people. But look for shortcuts. Perhaps you can write summaries of other content you find on the web, summaries of articles related to your business perhaps, and of course you'll provide links to those articles. Or perhaps you can write reviews of other websites or products. This is often known as content curation, and many popular websites have been built around this idea. Sites that in effect are in the business of talking about other sites. In fact, that's essentially what Pinterest is, an image content curation platform. Of course, you can also buy content or pay people to write content. This is big business, in fact. You can hire people through many channels. Hire them locally, perhaps through local college bulletin boards, through Craigslist, or perhaps through the freelancer sites such as Elance, Odesk, Guru, Nowcree, Freelancer, and more. You can find very low-cost content, sometimes written by people who clearly did not learn English as their native language, although I would not recommend that. While people have used very low-cost and low-quality articles to merely act as keyword vehicles for SEO purposes, the search engines are getting better all the time at recognizing garbage content. It's also a real problem when real live visitors arrive on your site and discover how badly written it is. This can really hurt your credibility. There are also a number of companies that focus on creating content for websites, companies such as Brafton and Idea Launch. These companies provide much higher quality work, though of course they're generally more expensive, though often not prohibitively so. Some of these companies have staff writers, others provide an exchange in which writers and buyers can connect. Search for the term content marketing and you'll find plenty of these companies. Here are a couple of things to consider when buying content, though. Firstly, you need a contract that states that the work is a work for hire, at least if you're in the United States. If you don't have such an agreement, then the writer owns the copyright of the article, so can resell it to other sites. The second issue is that in fact many writers do just that. They write an article for a site owner, then try selling it elsewhere. Or perhaps you commission them to write an article, so they search for an existing article and send that to you. It's quicker to grab an article from somebody else's website than to write it, after all. I'll discuss duplicate content in a later lesson, and it's not necessarily the disastrous situation that some people claim. But still, if you're working with a writer who creates 100 articles for you, you don't want to then discover those 100 articles on dozens of other websites. Tools such as Copyscape can help you find out if an article you've just bought has been used elsewhere. You need content, but you may not need a lot. Early in your SEO campaign, you should think about the low-hanging fruit. Later you may find that you have so much competition that you really do need to invest in more content, but you may want to see how your SEO campaign develops before you make that decision. So for the moment, you might want to just jot down a list of possible places that you can find content to get started with.